Absolutely. It's my pleasure. Because what you're doing is beneficial for those who are interested in. It's just you don't know who's ready to accept that information or not. Because
Yeah.
you're at a point to where you found you're like a parent. Like you're like a parent who's found a great way to be successful, but then you have this child who's 9 and they're just not ready for success. They don't even want to hear about it. So you just kind of got to hold on to it, but you're so anxious to say, "Hey, I just need you to just understand this is what you can do." And they're like, "Sure, whatever, dad. I just want to go." Like, so like out of the 92 people that you're talking with, especially active duty, I mean, I can't tell you how many active duty people who are so comfortable with that job security and that steady paycheck. Investing is not something that is like on the forefront of your mind because we have so many other things going on. And unless there's the few that are like, okay, I knew I got to be, conscious of this. But I'm speaking about myself. Like I didn't even pay into TSP. By the time TSP came out, I had already had investment. Well, I had what I thought was an IRA from A school, which I want to say at my 8-year mark, I got a letter from a lawyer saying that company went bankrupt, and it turned out to just be a mutual fund or some kind of way. It went from a retirement account to a mutual fund, and then I think I got like 60% of the money I put in it back. So then, like 2 years later, TSP came out, and I was kind of burnt out with investing altogether. So I'm like, now I'm just going to keep my money, and then if I survive to 20, because nobody thinks you're going to make it to 20 years. If I survive till 20, then I'll figure it out then. But no, and I understand your frustrations because, like I told you, so when I retired in 19 before COVID hit, I was already in retirement mode. So COVID was perfect for me because I was already home. But then I went on this journey to increase my financial literacy, and I'm learning more and more about just getting smart about money, not to be confused with getting smart about making money. Those are two completely different goals. I wanted to get smarter about money. And then as I'm learning things, I'm talking to my mother, my father, my brothers. They know me, they know my process, but even them got to a point to where they're like, well, why should I believe you? And I'm like, who the fuck are you talking to? Are you serious? I take like did you just ask, like you just challenged, like you know who I
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
me all, I've
Yeah.
known you all your life, and you're asking me
Yeah.
what, like I
Yeah.
understand
Yeah.
how you can take it personally, like you act like you
Yeah.
don't know me, but then at some point when it comes to finances, people want to know, what's your background, what's your credentials, or the proof
Yes.
is in the pudding. So your
Yes.
transparency, which was attractive to me when you started talking about it, right after that, you're like, hey, here's what I got into it. And I was like, yo, you is your social security frozen? Is this locked? Because you're just throwing this out here. And I'm like,
Yep.
but then
Yep.
I got a chance to like look at it and then look at the numbers and then say, okay, this looks good, but do I want to get invested? Like I went through the process of evaluating, what do I want from it and if I want it at all. And it just so happened that I realized real estate, if you do any type of financial research, you'll realize, at least in America, real estate is like in the top 3 of the best ways to gain financial independence. Has been since I want to say the 1800s, right? But when I was talking to what do they call it? Realtors, and then real estate brokers, or what's the multi-unit real estate people? They got a title for them. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but their mindset is not one that I espouse because I'm more of an environmentalist. So I remember, where was I? I think I was at the library just here in Mississippi, and I was talking to a real estate investor, and he would see like open forest, and then his mind goes to how many pieces of property can I get in that forest, where I see open forest and I'm like, how much natural capital can we gain or can we capture for preserving our planet? Like that's kind of how I want my mindset to be. So then it became, how can I invest in real estate while still preserving the planet and not trying to build houses anywhere and everywhere on every piece of land? And then so right before I met you, I had put stocks into like just a REIT ETF, just a random one that I got from personal finance website. I wasn't
Mhm.
doing anything. So I was like, okay, this has got to happen for a reason. There's no way this level of investment comes from just out of the blue. I've never heard of Fundrise, never paid attention to a commercial, didn't know anything about it, but it's exactly what I want. It gives me an opportunity to invest in real estate, to see the real estate that I'm invested in. I can go visit it through the information that I ask you, like, hey, have you seen this? Have you been here? And you're like, no, go to the website. It's right here. You can literally go drive over there if you want to. But then I don't have to change my mindset. I can just kind of support from afar and then get all the newsletters. So it fit the opportunity for me to give it a probationary try to see what I want from it.
Yeah. Man, some of the things that you're saying are music to my ears, especially your vignette about your family members kind of like calling you out on whether or not they should trust you. And you know, the thing that this tough lesson that I have to learn over and over again is there's, you know, I'm going to use the title of a book by Morgan Housel called The Psychology of Money.
I got that.
I listened to, it's a good book. He just came out with a new book. I forget what it's called, but I listened to that a while ago. And one thing that I really took away from it is that everybody has kind of like their own unique fingerprint as it relates to money, how they think and feel about money, based on, you know, their unique experiences and thoughts and feelings with money. And that is something that you have to respect and overcome potentially. And, you know, what's not fun is feeling like your friends and family think you're a snake oil salesman. It's not a fun feeling. But I also understand that it's just something that I have to deal with. It's something that I have kind of accepted, even though it's prickly at times. It's, you know, it's kind of my burden to bear that I signed up for. I picked my poison, if you will. And the thing is, what I'm trying to do is plant seeds, because the way I discovered Fundrise was not intentionally. It was the last year I was in the Navy, and I realized, oh my goodness, I got to get my ducks in a row, because my time here is coming to an end, and I got to figure out what I'm going to do financially. And so I was scouring the internet to be much more active with investing. I've always been investment minded, financially conservative, but it went from having a back seat to a front seat in my life. And I was really paying a lot of attention to YouTube, and a guy that I was following at the time, his name's Justin O. He was sponsored by Fundrise. And because I had a lot of respect and admiration for what Justin O was doing, I created an account. You know, I guess maybe Justin got a referral probably when I signed up. But, you know, my account started with $0. I didn't have $100 invitation referral voucher. And I was putting $10 a week, a month into it for something like 8 or 9 months until I cashed out that equity in my rental properties. And around October of 2022, I want to say, So I heard my first episode of the Fundrise podcast, which is called Onward. It was episode 10, and it was Fundrise's outlook for the market. I wish I could actually remember the exact name of the title, but I was blown away by it. I was really impressed. I remember where I was, and I was actually in my father's apartment complex at the time, walking around for exercise and listening to it. And I was blown away by it. At the time, it was Ben and Cardiff Garcia, I call him his co-host, although Cardiff has his own podcast and business that he focuses on. And I learned a term that Ben introduced me to called turtles all the way down. And it refers to how one institution's asset is another borrower or institution's debt. And I'm not going to try and explain it as good as Ben did, but it really opened up my mind to the concept of, okay, well, where does the buck stop with all this borrowing on a national level, right? For an entire country's worth of borrowing and big financial institutions. Well, that was episode 10. And as soon as I listened to that, I listened to 1 through 9. And here we are, a total of 46 episodes later. And I started consuming everything that I could consume. Ben's interviews off of Onward. He's got a TED Talk. And what he was saying and how he's saying it spoke to me. It speaks to me. And I he uses terms like fundrise is the tortoise, not the hare, and other, kind of analogies that you can think of, like the fire ant, not the grasshopper, right? Just conservative, steady, stable, slow and steady returns that you would think, if people know you and trust you, would be right up their alley if they are conservative. But again, it goes back to, that financial fingerprint where everybody's different. Anyway, listening to Onward really, and everything else I could find from the CEO, Ben Miller, convinced me to actually, for me, put a lot of money to work all at once, which was, scary is a word, but it was also, high stakes. And that was 2 years ago. That was around February, March of 2023. And boy, am I happy with what I did. Could I have done better? Absolutely. Around that time, Facebook's parent company Meta was trading at $88 a share. Would I be better off if I put all of the equity that I cashed out of my rental properties in Meta? Absolutely. It would have something like 5x between now and then. But you know what I didn't have? The courage and conviction to do that I gained from listening to Ben Miller and reading everything that's in the Fundrise Education Center. And so what I could have done really doesn't compare to what I did do, philosophically speaking. So you woulda, shoulda, coulda. I can do that all I want. But yeah, so, why do I put my financial private information out there for all of God and country to see? To follow in the footsteps of some of these people that I hold in high regard. Keith Gill, the guy who, was Roaring Kitty, DFV. He kind of set that standard for me in my personal experience of watching people online. A guy named Joseph Carlson. He's a YouTuber, a financial influencer. He's got 2 very public stock portfolios that he posts on a weekly basis and tracks with some very high dollar amounts. And I respect the transparency that the CEO Ben Miller displays on Reddit and Twitter and LinkedIn. And so what I do with posting my public portfolio, which, by the way, I started out as an avatar and a username on Reddit. And now I've got my face and my name plastered all over the place because I'm trying to build that trust and transparency through letting my portfolio performance speak for itself. And the thing that kind of stinks, just to tie a bow on this, is when it doesn't matter to people who know me. They don't care. They don't care that they saw my portfolio 2 years ago, half of what it is today. I'm talking about my Fundrise portfolio. And so, that is what it is. And some of these people I talked to for years, and then they finally sign up. My grandmother, by marriage, she hasn't signed up. And it's like, okay, Grandma. I just got to swallow. I got to swallow that bitter pill every time I think about it. But I'll go on and on about this. So